Welcome to 5 Minute Salute. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and joining me virtually is Tony Schwarz with Armada. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Nah, man. Hey, thanks for taking the time to tell your story. So can you tell the audience, where you're from originally and what you do in the military?
Absolutely. So I'm born and raised in Wisconsin, and I went out east, went to school at the Naval Academy. I had a great time there, went down to flight school after that, got my helicopter license, if you will, after flight school, flew helicopters for about 12 years. Yeah. Active duty. I flew 53 Echo helicopters. Yep. Rest in peace on the Navy side anyway. And then I actually went into the reserves in 2009, and I ended up doing a lot of operational planning and a lot of foreign policy work in the reserve status.
Yeah.
My most recent activation was to the Pentagon from 2018 to 2020. I was the chief of staff for the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Middle East policy.
Wow.
So had some really good piloting years and had some really, really enjoyable reserve assignments. I'm still in the reserves. So I'm a Navy captain. I support OSD policy still, specifically Defense Security Cooperation Agency. So I do a lot of work in the weapons branch when I activate. So I'm loving that. It's great to keep one foot in that world and do what I can, do my part, really enjoy it. And it's very fulfilling, obviously. But in my civilian life, I work for a tech startup called Armada.
Okay, that's awesome. Hey, number one, thank you for your service. I mean, you continue to serve. And then it's not lost on me. For the audience, I know what an OSD policy is. I'd encourage you to Google it. It is a very important arm of our defense that really sets the stage strategically for what we're doing, how we're going to do it, and who's going to do it. So thank you for your service to DoD, both in your civilian and your military career. That's awesome. So yeah, tell us about Armada.
I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity. So Armada Systems Incorporated is a Series A startup. We came out of stealth in December of 2022. We do edge computing, and specifically we do edge computing infrastructure. So we have three primary business units within our company. One is focused on network connectivity management. Yeah. Another is focused on on-prem ruggedized mobile data centers. So think about like a Connex box, 20 or 40 foot with racks of compute inside. Yeah. And then we have a third component, which is specialized on artificial intelligence, where we build models and algorithms for our customers.
That's amazing. It's funny. I just finished Mark Mills's book, The Cloud Revolution, and I'm almost done with The Chip Wars, written by Chris Miller. And that was recommended by a good, I'd call him a mentor, friend of mine, who's he's in the manufacturing space. And as we discussed, manufacturing, our grandfathers was around was a wrench and oil, and now it's somebody on a computer doing something and making the machine do the hard work. And you guys are really on the cutting edge. So Armada, are you guys in the growth period right now? And what's your biggest pain point?
Yeah, we are in a growth period. We're exploding, quite frankly. We're doing, it's a good problem to have, managing a lot of different projects at once. We started in the commercial space, and we had great success in kind of oil and gas and mining, putting edge computing capability in austere environments where human beings don't like to be. But we saw a natural kind of shift over to the Fed side, specifically DoD, when it comes to some of the austere environments like, open air desert battlefield, where you might not have good connectivity, but you need to get information in and out. Blue water ocean operations where you might have the same problem, right? So we're trying to solve those problems and connect the warfighter as needed so that they can do what they need to do in real time. That's another kind of a differentiating feature of what we do. We're about speed. We're about getting information to commanders in time to make good decisions.
Yeah, that's gigantic. It's funny, after my 06 level command, I worked at Africa Command out of Stuttgart, Germany, spent a lot of time on the continent running exercise, doing security cooperation. So like Niger, the whole Sahel, I can visualize this just from my own travels, and of course across the Middle East and other locations. So yeah, you're right. If you don't have that information to the commander in the appropriate speed, I mean, we're really talking, saving lives or preserving lives and taking lives in many cases. And unfortunately, given the current conflicts, and I no doubt you guys are watching Ukraine, Russia, what's happening in Israel, really across the greater Middle East, the speed of Moore's Law is live, and you're seeing it happening quicker and quicker.
Yeah, that's a great point. You mentioned the cloud, and the cloud is great. The cloud is phenomenal. It's not going away. It's revolutionized the way we do a lot of things, including warfare.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, we have a need today for more distributed operations. And in fact, in some cases, completely disconnected from the cloud operations. So
Yeah.
we're working on that problem set. We're making some good ground. And I think you're going to be hearing about Armada a little bit more in the mainstream. At least that's my intent.
That's awesome. No, it's very exciting. It's funny, like nobody heard of Anduril like 10 years ago, right? And now you hear about Anduril all the time. And this morning, so when I work out in the morning, I listen to podcasts. So I was listening to Sea Control, which is not a very well-known podcast, but it was talking about, again, the sea, and it had a number of Marine folks on the panel, the distributed nature of operations, because based on lethality of the current day battlefield, you have to disperse and then concentrate effects as appropriate in order to be successful. Because if you concentrate at the wrong time, the enemy is going to use their capabilities, which are pretty massive these days, to take life. So it's amazing what you guys are doing. Hey, so Tony, for folks that are looking, specifically like our service members, either out right now or folks getting ready to transition to create their own company, what's your 1 or 2 bits of advice for them to consider as they look forward to entrepreneurship or creating their own company?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious answer, Chris, is to do what you love. You got to be passionate about what you're doing. You got to have there needs to be something besides the almighty dollar that you're chasing, right? That can't be the driver behind your action. That may last for a little while, but if you're in it for the long game, you've got to love what you're doing. You got to feel strongly about it. It helps to have a niche capability, something that nobody else is doing. That's always helpful. But I think if you're fighting toward a problem set, you're doing it at the right time with the right cadence for the right reasons, it's going to fall into place naturally for you. One of the big challenges for us was identifying where we fit in. If you look at the arc of sort of modern warfare, we were conventional for a long time. Then we went irregular, then we went asymmetric. You can argue we're still in those spaces, but nowadays it's technology warfare, to be quite frankly. And if the dome drops, and we're talking about the pacing threat and some of the operations we've got going in the Indo-PACOM AOR, I mean, a lot of what you're going to see is going to be cyber and tech related, at least on the front end, right? So
absolutely.
We want to get into the problem set. We want to help the commander get the space he needs so that he can deploy his forces if he needs to at a time of his choosing.
No, hey, thanks for all that, and I really appreciate it. And the advice is on point. With a lot of things I echo too, the other folks considering that route is that if you're not passionate, the rest of your employees will not be passionate either. And then secondary, probably my top 5 is you don't want to produce either a service or a product nobody wants to buy, right? Because you won't be around very long, and you'll spend a lot of your capital making that thing or perfecting that service. So, hey, Tony, how do folks find Armada?
So we're at Armada. We're online. If you put in Armada Systems, we'll come right up, armada.ai.com. And I would add just one last thing on your last question, which is a great question, Chris. We brought in a SkillBridge guy to augment our team about a month ago, and he's been phenomenal. So for everybody who's in uniform or has worn the uniform, you hear this a lot, but don't discount what you've done. If you like what you've done, in most cases, if you've made a career out of it, you do. There are ways for you to employ that knowledge in the workspace, in industry. Industry needs it, not just for defense contracting, but outside. I mean, huge capabilities coming out of DoD after people retire and do their time.
Well, hey, thanks for the service to your nation. Thanks for what you're doing. You're still in the military, in the reserves, but what you're doing with your company. This is really exciting. I'm going to send you an invite. I want you to come on my other show, Tech Champions, so we can dig a little bit deeper, and we'll do that after the new year. But it's really exciting to have you on. It's great to know there's people out in our country that is doing what you're doing to make sure we're secure and safe, especially as Moore's Law continues to speed up. And that just doesn't happen in the business world, but also in the defense and our security space. So thanks again, Tony.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chris. Thanks for your service. Thanks for what you're doing to promote what vets can do.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hey, folks, we're going to take Tony's contact information and Armada's. We're going to stick it on our show notes. I encourage you to go connect with Tony on LinkedIn. Also, take a look at the company. If you need the services, reach out to them. This is an important space to be in. Sometimes you think it's the criminal walking through the door that's going to, torpedo your, if I can use that word, torpedo your business. In reality, it's probably a cyber criminal or some other malactor that's in your system that's going to take your intellectual property, steal it, and then use it for their own, for their own devices. So if you like what you heard, please share us. Look forward to seeing you in the next segment. Live with gratitude.